Сдается мне, надо включить питание.
Go by your own if you want some more. Never know, dumb nigga, hoe, or a simp, bitch. I'm getting to the money, I don't care who I'm killing, bitch. And bitch, you need a problem, come on up and I'll serve you quick. Your bitch can suck a dick, all I'm fucking is just a trick. See niggas think I'm playing just because I was tweeting chicks, but I'll get off computers, find his ass and show him clips. And nigga, that's the real, how the fuck could I stress it more? We sitting in the hood with a bowl of noodles. New phone, so rock that, there is for the hoes. But when I'm with my truths, in it brown is how we roll.
Кто-нибудь, пришлите труповозку! Нахуй мозг! Я пуля!
Ducking through the blinds, nigga, fuck a jail time. And I'm smoking my weed till I lose my damn mind. I'm smoking my weed till I lose my damn mind.
Voices in your head as you sitting there getting high, saying Chris Travis in between my bitch thighs. Then I ain't gon' lie, my nigga, I am about that cash. If that bitch do not got it, then that's her fucking ass. We re-up on Newports and then we smoke 'em by the bag, and I be smoking. It's the only thing I have, and yeah, I'm peeling niggas off like a fucking scab. And his bitch want the dick every time she pop a tab, but I'm okay with that. I just sit back and laugh. I don't want to have to drag a nigga down that path, so that pussy nigga better watch the way he act, or them choppers gon' make his ass chill like he
чтоб меня!
This Chris fucking Travis coming for the money grand, and drop it off your ass and lay me right onto my
Попали под свинцовый ливень! Отлично! Ура! Как на полигоне! Мозги во все стороны! Ура! Валятся как кегли! связывайтесь с морпехом! Найду вашего хозяина, голову откручу.
Максимум патрона!
Патроны! Энергия отключена. Надо бы ее включить. Здравствуй, мозг! Я пуля! Стрелял с закрытыми глазами. Ого, метко! Как я люблю этот звук! Видали? Я чертов снайпер! Ему все равно мозги не нужны. Не связывайтесь с морпехом! Не повезло тебе, уродец! Я иду, ублюдки!
Well, I'm coming off the motherfucking rip with the Mac, ho. All black, tinted out in the Cadillac, ho. I ain't thinking about a bitch, I'm trying to get the cash, ho. Coming straight with the Mac, lay him on his ass, though. This motherfucking trap is coming from the cash flow. And my motherfucking niggas coming from the back, though. No identity, so we got our mask on. Hit the motherfucking boat. If you wanna live
trunk. Fuck you niggas, man. Lock up in the trunk. Fuck you niggas, man. Lock up in the trunk. Fuck you niggas, man. Lock up in the trunk. Fuck you niggas, man. Lock up in the trunk. Fuck you niggas, man. Lock up in the trunk. Fuck you niggas, man. Lock up in the trunk.
Hit my fucking phone, nigga talking about that bullshit. Uncle call my nigga, say he got a fucking full clip. Ain't talking move, nigga. Shooting, guilty and disproven. Fuck this shit, I'm moving. Can't get caught, nigga. Fucking smooth, bitch. Got the fucking tool, nigga.
Жрите, твари! Немцы открыто для вас! Ползи в угол и там сиди, тварь! Привет, я Дэвид, а ты труп! О-хо-хо! Собаки! Привезите мои!
Максимум патрона!
Живи весело! Это по мне! Я тебя предупреждал! Вы попали под свинцовый ливень! Умрите, мрази! Получайте, уроды! О, да! Это освежает! Пошел ты! Вот вам, уроды! Неплохой пополнить боезапас! Да, я хочу пить! Ура! С морпехом шутки-блоки! Охоться на кого-нибудь еще! Ха-ха! Интересно, что в конце еще? Сдается мне, надо включить питание.
about shit they don't even know shit about. That dude till a fuck nigga go somewhere and run his damn mouth.
Ему все равно мозги не нужны.
Nigga like me don't even wanna speak. Hoes on my dick too hard, goddamn had to curse one out last week.
Я стрелял с закрытыми глазами.
Knock his ass out of a seat. Your bitch chicken boy, your cause grow when
Видали? Я чертов снайпер.
but for you it's a whole nother story.
Как я люблю этот звук.
She got her out the door. You called her phone after that. I sat back and watched that bitch tell a story. Lying assholes out here on me, man, they all just wanna be trifling. I don't give a damn, nigga, I'ma do me, cause I damn sure ain't finna wife. I don't give a fuck, I'ma smoke my weed, and the nigga pass me a lighter.
Жрите, твари! У него рука отвалилась.
Максимум патрона!
Кровь и кости. То, что нужно.
Smoking and rolling that fucking reaper. Lil' Chris Church bumping through your speakers. Nigga talk shit, he don't see the reaper. Taking your bitch, but I will not keep her. Gun on my waist, on the side is my beaver. Fucking your hoe when you dead, not believe her. Fucking that hoe after that, she a sleeper. Coming this bitch, black flag with the heater. Thinking this stuff ain't that fucking sativa. Mary Jane, she my damn reliever. Getting that fucking cake, my nigga. 420, wake and bake, my nigga. Time to start my day, my nigga. When you ski, aim for her face, my nigga. First fuck, you will never be the same, my nigga. Sit back, roll up, propane, my nigga.
А, черт возьми.
Get to that how I'm supposed to.
Давай, используй ее как оружие.
Chasing these cash. Eyes red off the thrags. I'm filled with some hash. Keeping that reefer, that fucking sativa. Smoke till I choke and I bust on the diva. Keeping that reefer, that fucking sativa. Smoke till I choke and I bust on the diva. Keeping that reefer, that fucking sativa. Smoke till I choke and I bust on the diva. Keeping that reefer, that fucking sativa. Smoke till I choke and I bust on the diva.
Кто-нибудь, пришлите труповозку. Патроны кончаются. Просто машина убийств. Вот вам, уроды! Кинул клешнём! Умрите, мрази! во все стороны. Найду вашего хозяина, голову откручу.
Максимум патронов.
Просто счастлив. Вам будет больно, ублюдки. Живи весело. Это по мне. Вы попали под свинцовый ливень. Без шансов, детка. Привет, я босс, а ты труп. Я иду, ублюдки. О, да. Это освежает. Кровавые ошметки. Не связывайтесь с мордой.
Очко.
Готов.
Максимум патронов.
Ха-ха! Интересно, что ганцы еще придумают? Отличный инструмент для расчленения. Как в тире, чтоб меня. Черт, нужно больше убивать. Горячее оружие для горячего парня. Кровавые ошметки. Дороги. А, черт возьми. Как я это люблю. Ты смеешься, как девчонка. мне их надо как-то соединить. Вы еще не поняли, с кем связались?
Удвоение очков.
Пора перезарядить оружие. Вам это понравится, ублюдки? Я не могу стрелять без патронов. Бах! И это! Ура! Не связывайтесь с морпехом! Слава обезьянке! Вот вам, урод! Не повезло тебе, уродец! Ура! Валятся, как кегли! Вот черт!
You have 25 seconds to leave with some cover. 20. 15. Teleport 2 active. Teleport successful.
Интересно, откуда эта штука взялась? Смотри-ка, молния! Ура! Суперпушка! Главный труп! Я иду, ублюдки! Лучший друг человека? Как же!
Максимум
Я
патронов.
просто счастлив! Расплюнуть! Разряд! Есть! успеха! Разряд! Есть!
Мгновенная смерть!
Категория Демпси открыта для вас! Кто заказывал потроха? Шоковая терапия! Неплохо пополнить боезапас. Патроны заканчиваются. Патроны кончаются. Патронов мало. Никак не привык. Привет, я Демпси. Ты труп. Еще не поняли, с кем связались?
You have 25 seconds to link with the mainframe.
Стоит вернуться к главному компьютеру.
20. 15. Teleporter 1. Teleport successful.
На куски вас порежу, твари!
You have 25 seconds to link with the mainframe.
Главный компьютер, скорее!
20.
Наконец-то! Красота!
Teleport successful.
О, да! Мне это нравится! Я иду, ублюдки!
Удвоение
Здорово!
очков!
Валяться в кегли! Найди в угол и там сиди, тварь! Разряд! Есть! Шоковая терапия! Шоковая терапия! Это не про меня. Вот так. О-хо-хо! Собаки!
Максимум патронов!
Не знаю как, но эта штука работает. Жрите, твари! Красота! Супер пушка! Ура! Супер пушка! Еще не поняли, с кем связались? Не знаю как, но эта штука работает. Я иду, ублюдки! Кто-нибудь, пришлите труповозку! Шоковая терапия! Ух ты! Никак не привыкну! Разряд есть!
bitch, and I ain't gonna rappers done lost they damn mind. Underground king and they running out of time. My fingers on her clit while I'm twisting lemon lime.
Power levels critical.
Все отключено!
From the great minds, and if you fucking test me, you can see this Tech 9. Pull that Desert Eagle that will leave your ass flying. Have you doing physics, bitch? I call it Einstein. I'm riding with a bitch that they call wine fine. I pop that bottle open, then I use my
Power levels critical.
Неплохо бы включить питание. Дороги! Уху! Повторим? Ему башку снесло. Я стрелял с закрытыми глазами. все равно мозги не нужны. Нет уж, тварь, ты не уйдешь. Ты сдохнешь.
Мгновенная смерть!
Получайте, уроды! Кто заказывал потроха? Вы еще не поняли, с кем связали?
Максимум патрона!
Здравствуй, мозг! Я пуля! Как тире, чтоб меня! Ура!
Удвоение очков!
Жрите, твари!
Stop they money, cause we out here fucking struggling. We looking for that open till that day we fucking hustling. And niggas wanna cheat, so there ain't no damn discussion. And niggas talk shit till they get a damn concussion. And you ain't gotta like it, but I know your bitch gon' love it. And you ain't gotta lie, cause we know your bitch is fucking. You giving her that cash, but you do not know she's fucking.
Как
And
на
you sitting
полигоне.
mad when she do not answer fucking. And all my niggas getting it, bitch, in.
Мозги во все стороны. Видали? Я чертов снайпер. Я иду, ублюдки. Найду вашего хозяина, голову откручу.
Максимум патрона!
Ну, кто на меня? Живи весело! Это по мне!
speak on how you feel shit, bitch. Real shit, trill shit, speak on how you feel shit, bitch. Real shit, trill shit, speak on how you feel shit, bitch. Real shit, trill shit, speak on how you feel shit, bitch. Real shit, trill shit, speak on how you feel shit, bitch. Real shit, trill shit, speak on how you feel shit, bitch. Real shit, trill shit, speak on how you feel shit, bitch. Real shit, trill shit, speak on how you feel shit, bitch. Real shit, trill shit, speak on how you feel shit, bitch.
5,
Dr. Phil, we're live. Someone's calling you. What's going on? Those people
Some of those
fuck
people
off.
I was trying to find. Now they're saying, "Oh shit." Yeah, let them worry.
Out of all the years you've been doing your show and all the years you've been giving advice, how did this Catch Me Outside girl? How did this happen? But I mean, out of all the different
go
shows, out of all the different shows, you made a monster.
I know. I mean, it's my moment of infamy. Seriously, this girl comes on with her mother, and her mother actually brings her on, of course, and she's a train wreck, and we work with her, and we send her to this ranch for like 4 months, right? She goes for a long time and makes a complete turnaround, does a great job. They say she's become a leader, she's working with all these girls, doing a great job, and then she graduates, and I remember this last shot when we do this piece at the ranch. She jumps up on this fence and is smiling and everything and waving and all. One night home with her mother, one night, and her mother's finding people that are trashing her, the mother, on these social media platforms. Her mother tracks them down, backs into who they are, gets their phone numbers, calls them up, yelling into the phone, calling them names and stuff, gets the daughter involved. One night, crashes. So they come back for a follow-up, like, I don't know, a month or two later. And when they come, I say, okay, I'm going to have them back. They walk out. I have the audience completely empty. I have nobody there to play to. 250 chairs, empty, nobody in the house but me, the mother, and the daughter. That's good news. And they go, what? Where is everybody? There's not being anybody. We're just here to talk and keep things going, right? And they were dumbstruck. There was nobody there to showboat for or play to, and there was like a 15-minute interview. They had nothing to say, and off they go. And then this phrase that got turned into a, whatever, a meme or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
It just went crazy, and she was nominated for a Grammy or something. I'm serious. So I take no credit or blame. I just did what I could and haven't seen her since. I wish everybody well. Maybe it'll grow her up. She'll turn something positive out, but I hope so.
Well, that's a very good attitude, very healthy attitude for you. But it is, when something goes viral like that, something strange that for whatever reason it catches and takes off, it doesn't make any sense. It's a very weird thing.
It makes no sense.
She's on a billboard on Sunset, a giant billboard. Huge. Enormous billboard. It's like one of those side of the building billboards where they put the graphic up and it covers the entire building.
It makes no sense. Seriously?
Seriously.
And then there's people curing cancer, and you can't find them with both hands.
Exactly. Nobody has any idea who won the last Nobel Prize for
exactly.
science.
But more power to her. if she can turn into something positive, does she have talent? Have you ever heard any of her music? or
No,
anything?
I have no idea. I've
Me
only
neither.
seen her on your show
Yeah,
say,
thank
"Catch
you.
me outside."
Yeah, appreciate you bringing that up.
Sorry. But it's just so strange that one train wreck could, for whatever reason, catch on, and then all of a sudden it's gigantic.
Yeah, they say that somebody signed her and paid her millions of dollars. Seriously.
Yeah, she got like close to $1 million from a makeup company.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, if that's happening, right? Like, what would your advice be then? Would your advice be, hey, get your shit together and stop being crazy? Well, she's making a lot of money off of being crazy, and her opportunities before that were probably severely limited.
Well, they had to be, and what I hope now, that this, even though this certainly is a quirk, what I hope now is that she's surrounded by mature people with business heads on their shoulders and development people that will actually guide this in a way that it's not 15 minutes.
Right, yeah. You never
that's what I
know.
hope. You know, that's what I hope.
Well, everybody thought the Kardashians were going to be 15 minutes, and it's
Right.
been 15 years.
Yeah. But there's been, people make fun of them, and there's some good things there to make fun of. They do things to be made fun of. But there's also some very smart business and branding that's gone into that as well.
Oh, 100%. And, and I was actually very impressed with her that she actually went to the White House to talk about prison reform.
Right.
For people that are unjustly accused and are been in jail for too long for things that they didn't do. And that's something she's actually passionate about.
Yeah, and I know Kim, and she's actually a very nice girl, very smart and all. And, as I say, they've done some very brilliant branding, and it's certainly paid off.
It's just so fascinating when something catches like that girl. What is her name, the Catch Me Outside girl?
Danielle Rigoli or something?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Because I didn't know her as the Catch Me Outside girl.
But if she didn't say that one phrase.
Yeah, and she just said that, I think, to her grandmother or somebody in the audience. I don't know, it didn't even register with us at the time.
Wow.
It wasn't a standout phrase in the interview or anything. It just passed by. Somebody just grabbed it.
And then it became a meme.
Yeah.
What a weird world we live in.
Yeah, no kidding.
What is it? I mean, it has to be a lot of responsibility to try to give people advice, to try to straighten their life out and show them the flaws and the errors that they're making.
Yeah, it is. And, people ask me sometimes, they say, Dr. Field, are problems, do you think problems are as simple as you make them out to be? And the truth is, I don't think problems are simple at all. In fact, I think problems are really, most of the time, pretty complex, pretty layered. They have a lot of different origins, and they're oftentimes comorbid. A lot of things exist together. So I don't think problems are simple at all. But the solutions are often simple, don't you think? I mean, it's kind of like the old joke, you go to the doctor and you say, this hurts. And he says, well, then don't do that anymore. It's a lot of times it's very simple in that somebody will have a complex thing that comes from childhood, or maybe it's a drug background, or they've had trauma in their life. But the solution is change your behavior. I mean, stop rewarding bad behavior. Choose a different path in life. Just behave your way to success. Sometimes the solutions are very simple, even though the problems are very complex. Because at some point, you have to stop focusing on why and start focusing on what. Instead of why it happened, what am I going to do to change it? So sometimes the solutions are pretty simple.
But implementing those solutions are often very difficult for people to change their lives, change their patterns.
It is, and patterns is the key. Nobody does anything in pattern if they don't get a payoff. And if you can identify, that's why insight's so important. That's why I think it's the number one outcome to whether somebody's going to respond to the talking therapy, for example. If somebody can identify what their payoff is, where they really can figure out, I'm doing this repeatedly and my payoff is I don't have to work, or I don't get held accountable for this, or I'm escaping accountability over here, or I get attention or sympathy. If they can figure out what their payoff is, and they can then control that, whether it's for themselves or their kids or whatever. If you control the currency, then you can control the behavior.
Yeah, it just seems that people have they have this comfort in their patterns, and even if their patterns are self-destructive, even if it's drug abuse or alcoholism or the comfort in those patterns, falling into those patterns, it seems very compelling to a lot of people.
Yeah, and payoffs don't necessarily mean that it's positive payoff.
Right.
I mean, the payoff for taking heroin is to get high, and so you're high for a while. That's not a positive payoff, but it's a payoff.
Right.
And if you get high and so you don't get a job and you don't take care of your kids, that's a payoff that you're not doing things that you need to do that you should be accountable for. It's a pathological payoff, but it's a payoff nonetheless. And so that does reward you, even though it's a pathological payoff, it's a pathological thing. You call it a reward. And if you can identify that where they say, look, I'm not doing what I need to do, and I need to stop rewarding myself in that way and hold myself accountable. I need to be there for my kid. I tell my kid I'm going to be there every day, and I don't show up because I'm high on drugs, then I need to stop doing it. I need to not let myself get away with that, and instead require myself to show up for the kid when I say I will. And then you see what's in the kid's eyes, you share the experience with them. Now that becomes the payoff, so then you'll start showing it for your kid.
Yeah. How many people take your advice? How many people just listen and try for a little bit and then bail?
It's hard to say because I think sometimes our most productive guests are the ones that don't get it, because the mail we get, they'll say, oh wow, that guy didn't get it or that woman didn't get it, but I saw myself in them, and I'll never say that again. I saw them being such a right fighter, or I saw them being so hard-headed or so oppositional, and I heard them say things I've said, and they left and didn't get it. I got it. I'll never do that again. So sometimes those that don't get it at all while they're there are the ones that are the best teaching tools for the millions of people that are watching.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? When you watch people fail and you go, oh, okay, I see that in myself. Yeah. I just got to not do what that guy's doing. And then also you see the stubborn pig-headedness that some people have where they won't listen to advice. And you could clearly see how they're ruining their lives by not being honest.
Yeah, and sometimes the story that we might have is maybe extreme where you say, I don't do all 6 things they're doing, but I do 2 of them, and they are in sharp relief to me, so I get that. I ain't going to do that anymore. So, I mean, that's where I think you get a payoff. And, people go and find these things on the internet. I mean, last year, we have a channel that we put up different clips, and, divorce shows or parenting shows or whatever, and we had over 2 billion views last year of people just going and finding that information and looking at it. So I know people are seeking the information out and looking at it beyond the show itself. So they must be seeking information, and we just don't have a good distribution system for mental health in America. So I think they're hungry for it.
Well, there's so many people out there that are trying to do better. They're trying to get their lives in order. And, shows like yours and just advice shows, people that are giving out inspiration and knowledge. It's such an important thing for people, especially for people that didn't grow up with wise parents or maybe a good support system around them.
I think that's true. And, I grew up with an alcoholic father, and it was a pretty violent home, and he was a really bad alcoholic. And I know, having grown up in that, you wind up with what I call a damaged personal truth. And you feel second class. And the problem that kids make, and because I know I did it, and I see others do it, is you compare your personal truth, what you know about yourself and how you really live and what's really going on. You compare your personal truth to everybody else's social media. is you go to school and you know, well, I know that last night the windows got kicked out of my house. I know that the utilities got turned off. I know there was a big fight in my kitchen last night. And the kid sitting next to me, he's got on a shirt that's all ironed and his face is all bright and clean. And, he looks like he's just got it all together. And you compare yourself to that person, that kid, and you feel like you're second class. And the problem with that is we generate the results in life we think we deserve. So as you think you're damaged, you think you're second class, you will generate results that you think a second class person deserves. So if you don't fix your personal truth, then you'll spend the rest of your life saying, well, those really good results, those belong for somebody else. That's not for me. That's for somebody else. And you'll settle for second best and you won't get what you might otherwise generate for yourself if you don't fix your personal truth. And so I think a lot of people are struggling looking for a way to kind of get out of feeling not good about themselves and damage self-esteem, damage self-worth, and they really don't know where to go. So, and that's why I do the show. I'm not going to miss that doing 8-minute tours up there. We're not doing this. But I think if you can point people in the right direction, if you can raise their awareness, you can get them thinking about it, you can create a narrative where they at least say, how do I feel about myself? Is there stuff I need to resolve? What am I saying to myself? If you can get them thinking about that, then, maybe you've done something.
Yeah, Tony Robbins once said it's incremental changes over the long haul, and the way you have to look at it is if these two boats are going in a parallel direction, one of them just shifts 5 degrees. Over the course of time, this boat is going to be in a far different place than the other boat that's going the same way it was always going.
Yeah, and the important thing to realize as well is the next year is going to go by whether you're doing something about your life or not. We're sitting here right now at the end of February. And the next 10 months are going to go by whether somebody is working to make change or whether they're not. And they may think, oh my God, I'm so far away, I'll never get it in control, or I'm so behind in my bills, or I'm so just depressed, or everything is so out of control. Well, you know what? You make those incremental changes, and then pretty soon, in December, you go, hey, I'm way better off than I was at the end of February. So, you made little changes, and they all added up. And if you don't, by the end of the year, you're just in deeper. So every little bit matters.
Yeah, I tell people to write things down. I say one of the best ways to get things done is to write things down. Write down what you're trying to get done. Write down what you need to get done on a long-term basis and what you need to get done on a short-term basis. And write off a checklist. Force yourself. Be accountable.
Yeah, the difference between a dream and a goal is a timeline and accountability.
Yeah, accountability is gigantic.
You got to have somebody, whether it's yourself or a friend or somebody that's going to say, look, did you do what you said you were going to do by this time? And if you don't, hold your feet to the fire. Because, just sitting around dreaming someday, someday I'm going to get a different job. Someday I'm going to change this. Well, someday ain't a day of the week. There's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Look on your calendar. Some days not on there. So you got to say, okay, I'm going to take this small step by here, this small step by there, this small step by there. And then pretty soon, we don't leap tall buildings in a single bound. We take it a floor at a time.
Over all the years you've been doing your show, you've developed a real community, right? You really have made an impact. If you stop and think about all the people that your show's touched and all the people that have listened to your advice and all the people that have taken that advice and made those little incremental changes in their lives and set those goals and held themselves accountable, that's a pretty significant thing.
Well, I hope so. I think I know that there's a stigma attached to mental illness, and that really bothers me. There should not be. Having depression or anxiety or whatever, to me, should have no more stigma than having a knee injury or kidney infection or diabetes. But there is a stigma attached to it. And I've tried to talk about this in a way where it's okay to talk about it and not be ashamed of it. It's okay. If you've got anxiety, got PTSD, whatever, it's okay. Let's talk about it. Let's get help for it. Get it behind you and move on. I mean, it's not something that you should be ashamed of.
What do you, when you're talking to someone that maybe has depression, do you try to get them to exercise first? Do you try to get them to visit a psychiatrist immediately and get on medication? Like, you take it on a case-by-case basis?
Well, I do, but you have to approach it. Everybody has a philosophy about it, and I'm not saying that mine's any better than anybody else's, but I do have a philosophy about it, and I'm very slow to medication. I mean, I think you use medication for biochemical replacement. I mean, if for some reason your body is not making enough of something it needs, then maybe you support it short-term biochemically. But, you know, I look at depression, there's a lot of ways you can break it up, but I look at it like, is it exogenous depression or endogenous depression? I mean, is it coming from the inside out or the outside in? Is it because you're reacting to something? I see a lot of depressed people that, in a sense, it makes sense.
Right.
I mean, you look at their life and you say, well, if you're not down about this, you should be. I mean, you've lost your job, you've gotten a divorce, your health is in the shitter, I mean, you should be down about this. It's external things. So you don't need a pill. I mean, put somebody in a chemical straitjacket because their life's falling apart. What the hell's that going to do?
Yeah.
But that's just putting goggles on them where they can't see it. I would much rather get them to behave their way to success. Say, what are you reacting to that you're depressed about? Let's put that on a to-do list and start, like you said, write it down and start crossing those things off. Let's figure what's an action plan to change this, action plan to change the next thing, actually. And then when you start doing that, then generally see their mood lift. A lot of people that are depressed are just realistically reacting to a crummy circumstance in their life. It's not necessarily a mental illness, it's just a realistic reaction to a bad spot in their life.
Yeah, that's such a good way of putting it, too, that if you weren't in a bad state looking at this, there might be something wrong with you.
Yeah, you're in denial.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've gotten a divorce, lost your job, your health's in bad shape, your kids are alienated from you, and you're saying, I'm fine, then you're not in touch with reality.
Right.
You should be bothered by it. And I think to give somebody a pill to mask your feelings about that just keeps you off task. Pain's a good motivator. I grew up in like Texas and Oklahoma, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but I used to spend my summers in the thriving metropolis of Mundy, Texas. You ever heard of Mundy, Texas?
No.
It's M-U-N. It's a U, not an O. M-U-N-D-A-Y. It's got like 2,000 people in it. But in the summers, it would get hot in Mundy, Texas. When I say hot, I mean you look out in the backyard and the dog burst in the flames. That's what I'm talking about. So we would be going to the swimming pool or something barefooted, and you get halfway across an asphalt road, and you look down and holy shit, your feet are just on fire. So what are you going to do? I mean, that is painful. You're going to do one of two things. You're either going to make a U-turn and get your ass back over to the side of the road and get in the grass, or you're going to run to the other side and get off the road and get in the grass. But you're not going to stand there in the middle of the road and melt yourself down to the knees. Pain is a motivator. Pain is not necessarily always bad. If you're in pain, it's going to motivate you to move, to change something. And to mask that with drugs, to dull that pain with drugs, is not necessarily a good thing.
That is wise advice. And I wish more people thought that way, particularly more doctors. I have so many friends that have gone to a doctor because they're not feeling so good, and they're almost immediately wanting to throw them on something.
Yeah, that's not smart.
In all the years that you've been doing this, have you noticed, was depression as prevalent, like the term depression, or was it doesn't, I don't really remember it being a thing when I was a kid that was discussed the way it's discussed now. Now it's discussed the way people discuss all sorts of other ailments. Is it just an awareness thing, or is it just people are thinking about it now in different terms?
Well, I think it's part of the narrative now, and I think with social media, with the internet, not just social media, with the internet, I think there's just a lot more in the nomenclature, and there's a lot more awareness about it. But I think it was just as prevalent in the 50s and the 60s as it was now. But in the 50s and 60s, there wasn't a psychologist on every corner.
Right.
And there is now.
Yeah.
And there wasn't subdoctoral licensing then. I mean,
What is that?
Well, back then, you had to have a PhD or an MD as a psychiatrist to see patients. Now they have marriage and family therapists, they're licensed social workers, they have different levels where you can do independent practice. So that's broadened the number of people that can provide services. And some people think that's a good thing, some people think it's not. I generally think it's a good thing, because I think 58% of our rural markets today have no psychiatrist available, and something like 50 or roughly have no mental health professional available at all. None. So there's just nobody available to help people in the outlying areas. So I think the more people you can get into the profession, so long as there's a degree of competency, is better. But I think it's always been prevalent. I just think people didn't talk about it.
It's just something they swallowed or they took to church. Or,
Yeah.
When you see, all these folks that are on medication today, I mean, how many of these people do you think legitimately should be on medication? I mean, is it something you can assess?
I can't answer that in terms. I mean, I'm sure there's research how many people are on medication, but in my personal experience, most of the people that I see on medications, in my opinion, don't need most of the medications they are. Now, and that's just anecdotal. It's my opinion. You ask me to hand you a research survey or study to support that. I can't hand it to you, or I can't point you to one. I just tell you, after 45 years in this experience, I see people that are on medication. They've usually seen someone for 6 or 8 minutes and said, I'm really feeling kind of down or blue. Yep, here's some Prozac, here's this, here's that. They give it to them, and they don't even really ask why. And they just give it to them because medicine has become a high-volume business. And that's not necessarily the doctor's fault. I mean, the way that it's now funded, and Medicare and Medicaid, you got to turn them and burn them. Or you can't stay in business. And so it's a high-volume business. And so they throw pills at them because they don't have an hour to sit down, or don't take an hour to sit down and talk about it and say, well, let's find out what's going on. Is there a reason? Like I said, if this guy's got 5 parts of his life that have gone down, or a woman that's got 3 or 4 areas of her life that have really gone down in quality, then they should be having poor mood. So why mask that? Let's come up with an action plan and change it. So most of the people I see on medication, not all, but most of the people I see are on too many medications in too high a dose, or either don't need it at all. And I am really bothered by polypharmacy. That's where I really get frustrated.
Yeah, this is, I think what you're saying is a very common sense approach, but it's not the norm today. It seems like more people are treating this, air quotes, depression issue as if it's a medical disorder like diabetes or something where you need medication.
And look, for a lot of people it works. I mean, you give people a mood elevator and they say, hey, I feel better.
And then maybe they change their life. Maybe they move their life into a more positive direction. They can wean themselves off of it.
Because one of the things about depression, for example, you get what's referred to as psychomotor retardation. There's a lessening in activity. And I think old sayings get to be old sayings because they're profound. You're not going to get a hit if you're not swinging. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're depressed and so you think slower, less actively, you behave less actively, your chance of getting rewarded goes down. You don't get out there and you don't mix it up socially as much. You don't apply for jobs as much. You're not as productive on your job as much. So you're less likely to get strokes. You're less likely to get rewarded. Well, maybe you go take a pill and it lifts your mood up, so you get more active, and so now you start getting pats on the back. You start getting people to engage with you more. So that lifts your mood and that takes care of it. So you took medication short term, you're lifted back up and you're okay. Short term, it can be an alternative. But I've seen people on everything from opioids to mood elevators for years. And that's where you lose me.
Yeah. I know people that have been on things since they were 5 years old, and they're in their 40s. Yeah.
And then you have wastebasket diagnoses like ADD and ADHD, or what used to be a spoiled brat is now ADD or ADHD.
Right.
So they start prescribing these neocortical stimulants like Ritalin. And if you give a kid that does not need a neocortical stimulant, you're really going to throw them off the charts now, because you've got a normally active brain that you're now making hyperactive. So you're creating a problem that didn't exist before you gave them medication because you didn't do the proper diagnosis.
Yeah, I had my old neighbor had a situation like that. They had a kid, and the kid had a lot of energy, and they weren't paying attention to him. And so they started medicating him. It's insanely common.
Yeah, and you cannot chemically babysit your children.
And who knows where these kids are going to be 20, 30 years from now. I mean, we're just looking at this rash of people being treated for these ailments, air quotes, and then we're not seeing how this all turns out in the long run and how much damage we're doing to these people.
No, and in fairness, on the other end of the continuum, I have seen some people that are clearly psychotic, schizophrenic, delusional, that without medication are absolutely impossible to manage. But if you put them on antipsychotics, and so you can lower their delusional behavior, their hallucinatory behavior, so you can now have a meaningful conversation with them, so they can respond to talking therapies, it makes all the difference in the world. And without those antipsychotics, you would be lost without them. So there are some medications for some disorders that are absolute miracles that without them you wouldn't be able to do the work you need to do to get the person back where they need to be.
Yeah, unquestionably. I mean, there's definitely a lot of great pharmaceutical drugs that help a lot of people. Do you get pushback from a lot of these positions from the established medical community?
You know, sometimes, but mostly when you talk to people about it thoughtfully, they agree with what I'm saying. I mean, most people will agree that you need to be thoughtful about prescribing medications, and that medications are too readily administered. I mean, that's certainly what we've seen in the opioid epidemic right now. Opioids are so readily prescribed right now that there are enough opioid prescriptions for every man, woman, and child in America to have their own bottle. And if you renew that prescription one time, if you are taking those opioids at the 7-day mark, your chance of being addicted at 1 year is 1 in 12. And if you renew it if you're still taking them at 30 days, your likelihood of being addicted is 1 in 3. And these things are getting written with way too high pill count. And so the addictions, we're seeing a whole different kind of addiction now coming out of the suburbs, and they take them for a while and they're very expensive, and after they take them for a while, heroin's cheaper. So they dump the opioids and start taking the heroin. So you're seeing soccer mom heroin addicts that you weren't seeing 10 years ago, because they get started on prescription opioids and then they can't afford them. or finally the doctor cuts them off, but they're addicted, and so they start taking heroin because it's cheaper.
No, this is obviously a very disturbing path. But where do you see this going? Like when you look at the future, I mean, it looks bleak in that regard. I mean, I've known several people that have had real problems with pills.
Yeah. The problem that I think people have is they think because a doctor gave me this, because it's on a prescription pad, that this is safe. Your body doesn't know whether you got that in the back alley or you got it from a doctor. It still has the same addictive quality, and I think it is at an epidemic level. And I've testified before Congress about this, and I think there are several levels of accountability at the manufacturing level, and the prescription level, and at the educational level, so people understand. I think everybody has to take part of it, and I'm doing everything I can to raise the awareness about it as well.
When you testified before Congress, what was the reaction?
They're very much aware that this has become a serious problem, because the cost, as you see, the lost labor in the workforce is in the billions of dollars. You see the demands on the healthcare system that this is creating. Young mothers with children and babies born addicted to these opioids. I mean, the numbers are just going through the roof. So, I mean, it's putting a strain financially on the healthcare system that it just can't stand. So you start costing money, and it starts getting politicians' attention. So they start saying, okay, now we got to start doing something. So they get it. They get that there's a problem.
What could they do, though? Once, I mean, it seems like once that genie's out of the bottle.
Well, clearly, you've got to start educating people, and the manufacturers have to be required to start labeling this much more clearly. Physicians have to be much more conservative in prescribing. I just had this shoulder surgery, and I took like one opioid, one pill they gave me in the hospital, and after that, you can manage it with Tylenol. The surgeons now are so good with the arthroscopic surgery and stuff. It's so much less of an insult to the body that with ice and Tylenol, you can kind of focus on it a little bit. And I'm not saying if you've had surgery and you're having organic pain, for God's sake, get ahead of the pain and stay ahead. But as soon as you can get off of it, get off of it.
Yeah, and understand what's happening.
Yeah, there's no sense in being like macho in the rubber strap between your teeth to go have some surgery. I mean, shit, if it hurts, take the pill, get past it, but realize the minute you can get away from that, you need to get away from it. But, they don't need to give you a 30-day supply.
Right.
They need to give you 3 or 4 days, and then you got to go see your doctor again, and it's still a problem. Discuss it. I mean, that's what I think needs to happen, is just be a lot more conservative about what you're giving.
The problem is these pharmaceutical companies make so much money. They don't want to back up that. They got private jets and yachts to pay for.
Yeah, they're starting to shut down some of these. They had some of these pill clinics and pain clinics in Florida, where you could go in without an X-ray, without an MRI, and just say you had back pain, and there was a doctor there that would give you a 90-count prescription on the spot, no questions asked. 90. And you're out the door, and you go down the street to the next one.
Yeah, because there was no database.
No database. And that doctor might be a foreign doctor that flew in from offshore, wrote all the prescriptions during the day, flew off again at night. And now they're shutting that stuff down. So the hammer's coming down.
Well, one can only hope. When you've been doing your show as long as you've been doing it, and I'm sure you've made a ton of loot, what makes you want to do a podcast? Why are you doing that?
Well, my interest has been, I was saying there are a lot of people getting their information on the internet by getting clips of the show and that sort of thing. And it's clear to me that as the population is changing, and I'm an old guy, but younger people are getting their information in different ways. They're going to the internet, and the digital menu has got to be readily available, and you can reach a lot of people that way that you wouldn't reach the other way. There's a whole population that's not going to watch broadcast television during the day.
Yeah.
And there's a whole population that's watching broadcast television during the day that maybe isn't in the digital space. And if I can get a crossover between the two and you can get a bigger audience to spread your message, then that's what you're doing. My goal is to spread the message and get what I think is important to say out there. So, I'll shout it from the rooftops if that's what I think that's effective. I want to do anything that's scalable to get the message out there. And to me, I'm doing some different things in the podcast than I'm doing on the show. On the show, I've got a fact pattern in front of me. I've got a story. I've got a family, got an individual, I've got a specific fact pattern. I'm dealing with that fact pattern. In the podcast, I'm not solving the problem. I don't have somebody that has a problem for me to solve. I'm just talking to people that I find interesting, and I'm able to talk to them about whatever I want to talk to them about. And to discuss things like you and I are talking about right now. I think what we've been talking about is an important discussion, and I welcome the opportunity to have that discussion. And I don't have time to do that when I'm talking about somebody who's sitting there saying, I think my kid is on the precipice of overdosing or is really in trouble, and I got to focus on that. I don't have time to pontificate about such things as the opioid epidemic or philosophy of pills versus therapy and things of that nature, because I have to give all my attention to the story in front of me. In a podcast environment like we're doing now, I can talk about things that I think people need to hear. I think if they don't have to listen, but if they're interested, it's there. So I like it being more free form and me being able to talk about things. I've been talking about what makes people a champion. I've been talking to Tony Romo right after the Super Bowl about, he came from Eastern Illinois University. It's like 9 students or something. It's a little bitty university. And he turns out to be quarterback of America's team for 14 years, set all kinds of records, and then goes to the booth and becomes the #1 color analyst in television. Champion. Why? What is it? What do you attribute that to? I like asking those questions and hearing people talk. What do you say to young people about that? What made you a champion? Are you going to let your kids play football? With all this CTE and stuff, what do you say? I like having those kind of conversations. Did the same thing with Shaq and Charles Barkley and different people.
What did he say about what makes you a champion?
For him, he said that he has this. He says he wasn't the kind of swagger sort of person. Came in cocky like he was going to own the field and own the game. But inside, he said he had this absolute drive that if he didn't win, he couldn't live. It's like if somebody thought that he played the game and somebody beat him, that just the idea that person went home thinking that they were better than him, that they could beat him, that he just couldn't eat, sleep, think until he got back and owned it again and got back to it. He said he was this drive to win. And so he said he'd be out at 1 o'clock in the morning in the dome throwing a pass that route got intercepted. He got jumped on that route. And he'd be trying to figure out why on Thursday in practice he saw what he needed to see. Why didn't he see it on Sunday? And he would analyze it until he could get
That super unhealthy obsession, they all share that. Michael Jordan had that. We've talked about that several times on the podcast. So many people that are extreme winners, they're psychotic in their obsession with winning. That's all they want to do, and if they lose, they it's almost insufferable. They almost can't deal with it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but the difference between winners and losers is winners do things losers do not want to do.
Yeah.
They will get up in the middle of it. They will do this. They will do that.
They feel it more.
They just do things losers don't want to do. They'll pay a price losers just don't want to pay.
Yeah.
And losers say it's just not worth it.
And every winner is going to lose. Yeah.
All you ever do, if you go through life in a success-only journey, God, how boring would that be? I mean, you think it would be great. It's like eating ice cream every meal. About the fourth meal, you're going to be thinking, God, let's kill something and eat it.
Well, it's like we were talking about depression, about that bad feelings will motivate you to change. If you're in a bad feeling, if you're in a bad state in your life, that pain is an amazing motivator. And even though it feels terrible at the time, it can propel you to a new and better life because you don't ever want to experience that again and make you grow and be a better person.
Yeah, and you got to decide what's your currency. I mean, 'cause you say, you've done your show a long time and probably don't need the money. But there are different kinds of currency, right? I mean, you don't always work for one kind of currency. I mean, every year when we wrap our season, I've got to take a month and let everybody go on that, just kind of unwind and relax and kick back and do whatever they want to do. And then we start meeting and focusing on, okay, how can we reinvent ourselves for next year? How can we tell our stories better? How can we broaden our horizons, do things different so that we raise our game? We're kind of competing with ourselves. We're kind of in a category by ourselves. We're the only one that does what we do. And we've been number one for a long time because I got a really hard-working team, but nobody else tries to do what we do. So we're kind of competing with ourselves, and so we work real hard to figure out how can we have a bigger impact? How can we tell this more effectively? What techniques can we come up with that make this even more powerful, more impactful than what it is? And that's what really gets me moving.
Well, it's very telling. That's why I would imagine you move towards doing a podcast where it's less restrictive and more open-ended, and you can kind of do whatever you want. That's pretty cool that out of all these years of doing that and giving out advice, you still find this passion to make it better and to do it from a different angle.
Yeah, and I'm as excited about. We're just about to wrap, our 17th season.
17 seasons.
And that's a lot.
How many episodes have you done?
Coming up on 3,000. And I did Oprah for 5 years before.
Cool.
And so that's 22 years. And then I just renewed for 5 years. I renewed out to 2023.
Did you hesitate before you signed that? Like, what?
Well,
Let's go fishing.
Robin and I thought about it. But, what am I going to do?
Well, you enjoy it, obviously.
I do.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
You can tell.
And I've always told my team the thing that we don't want, I don't want to get bored.
Right.
And if it gets formulaic for me, it'll be formulaic for the viewer. And I don't want that to happen. And we do a lot of news stories and stuff. And that keeps it fresh because you don't know what's going to break in the news tomorrow.
Right.
And so we do most of the really good news stories. And we don't break the news stories. We go behind the headlines. Paul Harvey said, here's the rest of the story.
Yeah.
This is what you read in the headline. Now here's the rest of the story. And I really like doing it. I really like getting into it.
Well, and when you're doing this on your podcast, one of the beautiful things about that is that you can explore these ideas without commercial breaks. You don't have to have anybody telling you what to do. You can whatever's interesting to you. Is that how you pick the subjects and the people that you're talking to?
Yeah, like this week I had on Pam Meyer who wrote Lie Spotting. I spent a lot of my...
Is that a book on liars?
Yeah.
Lie spotting?
Yeah, and I spent a lot of my career on deception detection because I spent a lot of time in the litigation arena and on interrogation techniques.
That's how you met Oprah, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was when she was doing that. The beef industry was suing her.
Yeah, the mad cow case in Amarillo.
Yeah.
Yeah. She got sued for a couple of $1 billion. And, I represented her in that case, and that's how I know. And I had Pam on. We both worked a lot in deception detection and interrogation techniques and stuff. And so, and it came right at a time when, Jesse Smollett is in the news about is he telling the truth, is he not telling the truth, and then here we have this allegation about.
What did you think immediately when you heard that story?
I was very suspicious when I heard that story.
Yeah, Jamie and I, we shut once the cameras were off, we're like, are these off? Fuck that guy, that ain't real. It was just too much like a movie.
Yeah.
Like a bad movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's 9 below zero, and 2 people are lying in wait just in hopes that he might come by.
Yeah. So strange.
It was suspicious, and he's entitled to due process, and he's going to get it.
Yeah, he's going to get it. Now he's saying he has some untreated drug problem, so he's trying to carve out some path to explain his bizarre behavior.
But there are very specific lie behaviors that people can't really control.
Like what kind of stuff?
Well, for example, when people are really desperately trying to convince you they're telling the truth, they'll do a lot of times what are called convincing statements. Rather than just telling you what you really didn't do, they'll be convincing statements like, you know me. Like somebody saying, somebody stole the petty cash in the office. You know me. I give more money. I donate more money than was stolen. You guys know me. I was employee of the week last year. They're just convincing you that they're this nice guy. And then they'll
That's not what someone does if they're wrongly accused?
No.
What does someone do if they're wrongly accused?
If they're wrongly accused, they'll look you straight up in the eye and tell you, I didn't do it. And if you ask them, what do you think should happen to somebody that did? An innocent person will say, I think they should be found. I think they should be held fully accountable to the extent of the law. Somebody that's guilty will say, well, I don't know. People make mistakes. You gotta give a guy a second chance.
Do you worry that in coaching that you're essentially coaching liars by telling people this kind of stuff, and someone who does steal the money, would be able to kind of like,
it's not for amateurs. There are some things that you can tell people to watch for, but one of the things you do with somebody that you suspect is you increase their cognitive load during the interrogation, and there's no way you can prepare for that.
oh, how do you do that?
Well, you plant a mind virus, for example.
Ooh. This is Perry Mason type shit.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do?
Like, if
Let's
I
pretend
said,
some money's missing.
yeah, if I said to you, is there any reason somebody would have told me that they saw you near that cash box about the time it went missing?
Dum dum dum.
Okay, now, people talk at 125 words a minute. They think at 12 to 1,400 words a minute. Now, if it takes you five seconds to tell me no, you took the money. Because if
I'm
you
getting
weren't
nervous right now.
because if you didn't take it, you know you didn't take it. You don't need to run scenarios through your head to think, who could have seen it? Who could it have been? I didn't see it. But if you didn't do it, it doesn't take you 1 millisecond to say absolutely no.
Have you ever been wrong before, where you see someone on television and you go, I think that guy's guilty, and they're innocent, or vice versa?
Oh, sure. Because if you really want to know for sure if somebody is guilty or innocent, you need to invest a lot of time. You need to get a baseline of what they normally look like. talk like, feel like, and then knowing that baseline, you then need to compare how they're behaving on TV. So just walking by the screen and seeing it, you might see things that would ordinarily be like behaviors that could just be part of their personality. So if you're going to really make a judgment, you got to put a lot of time in and figure it out. But what you should do before you decide you're going to be a human lie detector is do your homework, and you ought to try to figure it out objectively before you figure it out behavior. I mean, you ought to do your investigation, find out if something's fixing under, and find out where they were, and look at fingerprints, and do this and do that. And you ought to really objectively figure it out before you rely on these things. So unless you get a baseline and get one-on-one with them and spend a lot of time, then you can't do it. You can't be really certain that you know how to do it. It would be fun if it was that easy. And now, some people are pretty obvious.
Yeah, I heard a cop once say that when people are guilty, they tend to plead and cry, and then when they're not guilty, they tend to get angry when they're accused.
People that are wrongly accused are generally irate from the beginning to the end. I mean, every case is different, but if you're wrongly accused, that person is going to be pissed off from the minute you accuse them till the end. Because it's like, they're self-righteous, like, I didn't do this, and you're saying I did, and screw you.
Yeah.
And they don't take a step back. And when you see people, they do these convincing statements, and they're pleading for you to believe them, and anytime somebody says, now, in all honesty, usually the next thing out of their mouth will lie. Like, they say to you, now, Joe, honestly, as opposed to everything else you've been telling me,
right.
I mean, why are we're bracketing this one out as honest?
Right.
Or if they invoke the deity.
Oh.
I swear to God.
Yeah.
God as my witness. And, I don't know whether I have not done what I said you need to do with Jussie Smollett, but I do know when he went to the set at Fox, he said, you all know me. I swear to God, I didn't do it. And there were like 3 or 4 of those kind of statements in like 2 or 3 sentences there.
Well, my favorite one was he's on stage and called himself the gay Tupac. That's enough for me.
That's a little narcissistic.
It's a strange thing, though. Like, there was another one today. A guy lit his house on fire, I think in Chicago, and said he was a gay fella. Said it was a hate crime, and they caught him. There's a lot of that going on, a lot of fake crime. Very strange. And then sometimes people accuse people of something, and someone will say, why would someone make something up? Why would someone turn themselves into a victim? I think there's a lot of clout in being a victim, especially today. You get a lot of attention, a lot of love. I think there's a lot of false accusations and false attacks, and there's a lot of real ones. But man, when the false ones come, it just does a giant disservice to everybody.
Well, there's a fair amount of research as to why people do these hoaxes, and particularly hate crime hoaxes. And one of the primary motivations, of course, is sympathy and attention and all that. One of the interesting reasons that I've read in the research is that they really feel like it's emblematic of how the system treats them overall. This is just a dramatic example of it. I mean, they feel like I'm treated this way anyhow.
So they're just...
I'm discriminated against, I suffer bias, I'm put down. This is just a focused example of that. So I'm really not lying, I'm just role-playing how I'm overall treated.
Oh, wow.
So they justify it in their mind that they're just going to bring all this treatment into one example to bring it into focus. And so while it's a phony deal, it really is truthful representation of what their life is really like. They justify it in that way.
Oh, how weird.
Yeah,
That's some deep psychological shit
yeah,
right there.
yeah. That's stretching.
But that's a weird one. You're like, when you write it out like that, put it in your mind that way.
Yeah.
Wow. It's strange too because it gives people this this giant public show to watch now.
And I hate that. I mean, what a talented young man. I mean,
Is he?
The times that I've seen, I don't watch that show a lot, but the times I've seen him on there singing and assuming it is his voice and he's singing, extremely talented young man.
I find a lot of talented people are fucking crazy.
Well, somebody said that the really talented singers and actors were the weird kids from high school that were in drama and all of that.
Oh,
Didn't
for
have
sure.
real
Yeah,
friends. I
for sure.
don't know.
Yeah, various levels of crazy. Obviously, not all deceptive, but some of the most brilliant actors are just completely out of their mind, and that's one of the reasons why they're so good at acting. Because they can look. My friend Wayne Fetterman had a bit we did about it on stage, and he's like, "Guess what? It's not fucking normal to be able to just cry."
Yeah.
He goes, "You could just cry and pretend something's wrong and cry." He was like, "That's crazy. These are crazy people."
Yeah, and you really can't go to a certain place if you don't have a little of that in you.
Yeah.
My dad used to always say when he was working with patients, he'd say, something about that old boy I can't stand about me. And he'd say, you can't see it in them if you don't have a little of it in you.
Yeah,
And I think there's some truth in that.
Oh, there's 100% truth in that. That is the thing that drives me the craziest about weak people. I'm so terrified of seeing weakness and just being pathetic. I'm so terrified of seeing that in myself. I see it in other people. It smells. I smell it like a drug sniffing dog. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, you smell desperation.
Yes.
What makes you do this? Why are you doing it like that?
I have always been a blabbermouth. I can never shut the fuck up. I love talking, and I've always been fascinated by human beings and their lives, and just talking to people. Like the guy before was who's a narcotics journalist. He's a narco journalist in Mexico. I mean, I couldn't wait to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just what a life. I mean, he's been living in Mexico for 18 years. I'm
Still alive.
Still alive.
That's something right there.
Yeah, and he's telling me about friends that have been killed, and he's been in some sticky situations a few times, and I'm just fascinated by people and what they like to do. I'm fascinated by athletes. I'm fascinated by physicists. I've just always been very, very curious, and I've always recognized that everyone thinks about things differently. And I could take a little bit of something from everybody, whether it's from a book or it's from having a conversation with someone. I can gain a little bit of experience, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of insight.
Yeah, you're naturally very curious. I listen to your interviews, and you're naturally very curious. You don't struggle for the next question because you really want to know something. That makes it much easier.
I was very lucky that I found this.
Yeah.
Just stumbled into doing this much. And it wasn't this way in the beginning. In the beginning, it was just horseshitting with friends. And slowly but surely, as the podcast became popular, I was like, I wonder if that guy would talk to me. And then I would get people on, and then it became more of these long-form, interesting conversations.
Yeah. And if you're curious about human functioning at all, human nature at all, there's an endless menu of things you can talk about. I don't care who it is. You could pull somebody out of a car on the street.
Yeah.
And if you're curious, you can talk to them because everybody has a different take in life. Everybody has a different walk.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're talking about, you're interviewing all these athletes. I think people tend to write off athletic pursuits as being entirely physical, and they're not. I mean, I think this is an easy way for people to look at it that don't engage or that have never really thought about playing anything at a very high level, that it requires some intense thinking. It might not require mathematics or a large vocabulary, but understanding what's required, understanding when and how to execute, understanding how to keep your shit together under pressure. Those are all intensely intellectual aspects of any really high-end athletic pursuit.
And there's a different breed of cat that wants the ball at the buzzer.
Yes.
That's not just a showboat. There's a different breed of cat that wants that ball at that point.
Yes.
And it's not always who you think, but it takes a special kind of person that wants that pressure.
Yeah, that knows they can handle it better than anybody else. You know, and it's a lot of times it's people that are entirely confident that they've done the work. You know, there's a haunting thing that happens with athletes where you're not sure if you did enough. And in fighters, it's a very dangerous inclination because it leads you to overtrain. And you have to be very careful about that. Because with a fighter, you only can learn so much during your training camp. Say, once you get into training camp, you got 8 weeks, depending on who you are. Some guys like to be a little longer. But the average is maybe 8, 12 weeks is a long. You already have to know how to fight by the time you get to camp. So what you're really doing is just kind of working on specific movements where you're dealing with one kind of fighter and then getting your body in shape, getting your body conditioned, getting your mind ready, preparing everything, cutting your body weight down, getting so you can go in and have a good amount of just you gotta have enough vitality. You can't drain yourself. So there's this complicated dance, and that haunting thing of did I do enough can cause fighters to screw themselves over by overtraining. Yeah. So you have to have enough confidence to know that you've done enough, as well as enough. You have to know you've done enough, but know you haven't done too much. This is a really strange dance. You know, and this weekend is a giant UFC, big UFC, 2 big title fights between 4 of the very best fighters in the world. And I mean, that is one of the most interesting aspects of the fight game to me is, one, watching these guys stare each other down the way where they get a look at each other and they know 24 hours from now they're going to war. And just see, like, is there just a smell of doubt? Is there anything? Is there anything in there? You know, and just knowing that this is probably one of the most difficult things in all of athletics, and that these guys are going to they're going to apply their trade in one of the most complicated things. It's a battle of physical, mental, of mindset, of will, of conditioning and discipline. And then it's also, there's a lot of random shit that happens.
Do you think a fight can change at the weigh-in when people are looking at each other?
Yes.
You think
it can change.
It can shift right then?
It can't change forever, but like, you could look at John Jones sideways, upside down, you could stick your, it ain't gonna affect shit. There's some guys that are just locked down bulletproof. John Jones is bulletproof. There's certain guys that are just bulletproof. They just look at you and like, they know what to do. There's a reason why he's undefeated. You know, he knows how to do it. But then there's other guys that are like, maybe it's 80-20, maybe, and then the stare down, you look at the guy and you look at him like, God damn it, I'm fighting Yoel Romero. How the fuck did this happen? And then you see him drop down to 75, maybe 73% confidence, 72, 70, shit. They look at his traps. He's got a neck that starts at the top of his head, and you're like, oh, fuck. You know, there's certain guys, they're intimidating at weigh-ins too. Yeah, it can change a little bit, but not for everybody. There's certain guys that just, it doesn't matter, you can't get in there. There's certain champions, like real champions, like Mighty Mouse Johnson. There's a bunch of guys like that. They're just champions. You look at them, it doesn't matter. They know what they're doing. They've done the work. They're the best in the business. Like, you can mean mug them and get aggressive. They might smile at you. I'm like, this is cute. Trying to make me nervous. Hilarious. See you tomorrow.
So is that because they know who they are and it doesn't matter who this is? Or is it that they just don't believe in this guy?
They know who they are, I think. And they have reached a level of confidence. When you get to a certain level of success, like, you know, John Jones has one loss in his record, and it's by disqualification. The fight he was destroying it. And he was hitting the guy with, it's a really dumb rule, but when you throw elbows, you're not allowed to throw a 12-6 elbow, meaning coming straight down. The only reason that exists is because when mixed martial arts was first being sanctioned by athletic commissions, the people that were in the athletic commission had some nervous fears of they had seen like those late night TV shows where karate guys are breaking bricks with their elbow, driving straight down. They thought they could kill somebody if they did that. So let's not have. We'll eliminate that strike. It's a dumb rule. and John Jones hit this guy with a couple 12 to 6 elbows, and he was disqualified from the fight. He was just destroying the guy. So for a guy like that, who has this staggering resume of achievement, he's widely considered to be the greatest light heavyweight champion of all time. If not, he's definitely in the running of the greatest fighter ever of all time. For a guy like that, he's confident to the point of, he's not trying to just beat this guy, although he's going to beat this guy. He's trying to go down in history as one of the greatest of all time, or the greatest of all time. So for a guy like that, he's a Michael Jordan type character. There's a few of those guys out there. There's these LeBron Jameses, these Larry Birds. They exist in all sports. They have this mindset, a champion mindset.
Does he fight angry or does he fight businesslike?
Businesslike. He's very businesslike. Yeah, he's very businesslike. He just knows what he's doing. The best guys fight businesslike. There's some guys that fight with emotion and they're still really good, but like Fedor Emelianenko is this famous Russian guy. He would have a look on his face like he was cashing a check and was smashing a guy's orbit in. He was just, he was the highest level of that, like that robotic, business-like approach to fighting. And then after he knocked you unconscious, he helped you get back up. It was over. Once he shut it off, it was over. There's no sign. He thought emotions were weak. Like showing emotions in a fight, showing anger, all that was weak.
I think there's a huge psychological component to it. I mean, I agree completely.
Gigantic.
I think if you go in with that, man, I just think it's terrible.
It's terrible.
Yeah. I think because now you're fighting yourself and them too.
You remember the Mike Tyson fights when he was in his prime?
Oh yeah.
Remember the look in those guys' faces?
Oh yeah.
They're staring across the ring at him and like, oh Jesus, what did I sign up for?
Yeah, they're thinking, I don't know what the money was here, but it wasn't worth it.